Hey, I'm Tarot Oracle, and this is another lesson on facings. So facing is basically what direction a person is facing in the card. They could be facing this direction, they could be facing that direction. You never know where they're going to be facing, so you have to sort of account for why is this person looking over at the next card. So for example, this person could be looking over to here, and that is called a facing, basically what direction he's looking. There's three different types of facings. There's four. One is a facing to where you're sort of looking down, sort of like a solemn facing, not really quite all that interested in what's going on. And you'll see examples of that like here and here and here. So you have all sorts of different examples of people looking down when they're facing something. So why would somebody be looking down when it's time to face another card? Well, they could be not looking forward to something. Maybe they have a family reunion coming up. Maybe they have a trip out with friends, and one of the friends is a little bit of a drama maker or whatever. So you'll have this person facing that direction, but sort of looking down, trying to avoid it. So that's one type of facing when they're just more or less trying to avoid looking at the other card. Sort of like you see a horror movie and there's a scene you're just like, ugh. So basically just avoiding looking at that card completely. Another type of facing is just basically looking that direction. They're not standing, they're sort of seated and just casually looking over. So this is the next direction of facing that you have. So one is looking down, and the next severity of facing, or the next type of facing, is just sort of casually looking that over. So you could be looking at a trip that's coming soon. They're taking the trip. They're sort of just looking at it. They're not all of that interested in it. If they were interested in it, they would be standing up maybe, or sort of leaning in, or have some sort of a different reaction than just sort of casually looking that direction. So when you see someone that's pretty much firmly planted, they're not going anywhere, and they're looking, they definitely just sort of in an observation mode at this point. They want to see what's happening, but they're not really all that interested in hopping over and headed that direction. So you definitely see this again if you have a family outing or something. They're not too excited about it, but they'll definitely go. I mean, they want to see somebody maybe, or they have some friends and things they're looking forward to seeing. But as far as excitement and enthusiasm, there's not much enthusiasm going on in the card here. So just remember that when you look at facing another card, looking in that direction, what exactly is the motivation factor? Is from 1 to 10, is it low motivation, sort of looking down, I really don't want to deal with that crap? Is it this, which is sort of like a 2 or 3 motivation? Or is it like a lean in, I'm standing, I can't wait to get over there, sort of 9 or 10 motivation? So sort of watch out with that when facing. Not only is they just facing that direction, but they have an intensity about them, and they have an interest level as well, which is going to accompany the facing of that card. So here we have the next type of facing, which is basically they're standing and they're looking in that direction. So they could be interacting with that card as well. So she could be interacting with this person. Maybe she's telling this person something, but she definitely has more of a keen interest in that other card than somebody obviously who is looking down or who is seated and just sort of in observation mode. Now this type of facing has more severity to it because they now are past observation. They just don't want to, they no longer want to just casually look at the card. They no longer want to just casually watch or see what's going to happen or observe, but now they're in more of an interactive mode. Or are they moving? Are they actually moving along, which is totally different? No, they're not moving along. Moving along would indicate that they are interested enough in the other card to head that direction. So if you have a trip coming up and you're moving towards it, then you're pretty excited about the trip and you're moving in the direction of this card. So you can see you have an active movement here towards the card. But this is different. This is still facing. But instead of sitting, instead of just casually observing, they now want to interact with the other card. And you can see them interacting by putting their hands out, or by leaning in, maybe yelling something. There's all sorts of different interactions that you can have in here. For example, here, maybe they have a friend who's sort of closed in, a friend who's not exactly right, and maybe they're a bit angry or something, and they're sort of consoling their friend at this point. Again, you have a facing, but they are actively interacting with that card. So you have a much higher interest level at this point between the two cards. So in this reading, I would say that this person is, again, consoling maybe their depressed friend, that a friend doesn't get out much. Maybe they're a bit too much of a indoors person, or they're just mad at the world because they lost their job, or whatever happened. So now she's sort of consoling the friend. Now she wants to interact with them, as well as she has a sword as well. So there could be some defensive initiative here as well, but you're going to have to figure that out based upon the reading. But I mean, in this particular case, we have a higher interest level than just casually looking around. And finally, we have the last level of facing, which is the actual leaning in. If anyone is leaning in, they are keenly interested in what's going on over here. For example, this person could be keenly interested in the homeless situation. Maybe there's a person that they know that's really depressed or really down that they want to lean into and have more of an interaction. So this is your maximum amount of facing at this point, to where you're ready to talk to the person, you're ready to lean in, for example. So anyone leaning in, reaching in, trying to talk to this person, etc., is going to be a totally different, again, interaction level than the person just sort of looking over, but head down, not really excited about anything. Again, this person's moving, but another instance to where you have the head down, sort of not exactly excited about stuff. So maybe again, we have a trip coming up, so they're extremely excited about the trip. They're very ready for that. Maybe they have some change coming up in their life. They're excited about that as well. Or even more change coming up, they're excited about that one. So looking for guidance possibly, they're very, very interested in guidance. Maybe they're very, very interested in change. Maybe they're tired of their job. Maybe they're tired of the relationship and they want to move on to something better and more exciting. So at this point, again, they're leaning in to this, they're looking in, they have a nice lean to them, they're reaching in. Any type of facing that you have, to where you're just maximum excited about going into this next card or interacting with this next card. So again, keep in mind that you don't have movement. Movement would actually be active movement, and that's totally different. An active movement means I'm headed this direction. So if there is change over here, maybe I'm headed the direction of change. Maybe that's my destination, that's where I'm headed. But be aware that a facing is different than a movement, because facing, you're not actually headed that way, you're just interested in it. So you have an interest level in it. Maybe you want to interact with it, but you don't want to be in the situation. So there's two ways to look at this. One is, I want to be in the situation. So I'm moving towards change. I'm moving to a big disruption in my life. And that would be like, maybe I quit my job, or let's say I left my relationship and I'm going into a different relationship. At this point, you're moving into this big change. You're moving into this big upset. It's going to basically shake your world. It's going to shake everything that you have, and you're actively headed that direction. A facing is totally different, again, because you have an interest level in that, but you're not quite headed that way. So just keep in mind the two differences between movement and facing. A facing is, I'm not headed that direction. That's not something that's destined for me quite yet. I am interested in it, I'm looking towards it, and I want to interact with it maybe. Again, if you have somebody who's headed on an adventure, maybe you want to interact with that person, maybe you want to see it, but you don't want to be involved in it. Where that movement comes in, you do want to be involved, and you're going that way. Not only do you want to be there, but you're headed that way. So keep in mind that's the difference between moving and facing, and that's going to be your determination between how serious someone is about doing that type of stuff. So let's see, for example, we have guidance. So this person is moving towards guidance, moving toward maybe sort of a spiritual awakening. Maybe this person is moving towards that, they're working on that, and they're headed that direction. They will be there soon, because that's their goal and that's what they're headed for. And then you have the person maybe who's not quite that serious about it. Maybe they really don't want guidance at this point, but they're sort of looking at it. So that's one of those things where maybe you have a lazy person. I mean, somebody who's just more talk than anything else. You can differentiate the person who wants to definitely be over there in the change, wants to be over there with the guidance, but someone who is not wanting to be over there, just sort of casually looking over. As well as you can find the person who sees the guidance, but they have no interest whatsoever in being over there. So you obviously have situations to where somebody will be looking away, which will also indicate no interest. But at this time, you have someone who's looking that direction, but sort of looking down. So again, they have interest. There is a tie here. There is interest, but they're not quite ready for it. Here, you would have absolutely no interest whatsoever. I mean, you're turning your back to it. You really don't want to deal with it, things like that. So that's zero interest. But over here, you have a little bit of interest, but you're not quite ready to commit. Not quite ready to head that away. Again, the second level of severity, you're more interested in it. You're looking. You have a steady gaze. Your interest level has gone up. And of course the highest, where you're ready, you're interacting with it, you're heavily researching it, you're looking at this is something you want, something that you need, and something that is of interest to you. So I'm Tarot Oracle, and that is my explanation of sort of another way of looking at facings. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, please hit like and subscribe. If you want a free reading, email me at the address on the screen. Thank you so much for watching.